My name is Deborah. I'm an English teacher, and I'd like to welcome you to my online English learning. This first lesson aims at reviewing grammar tenses and the most important verb tenses from the language. This video is divided in 3 parts. The first part requires you to reflect on what you already know about the language, so you can have an idea of your performance before and after the video. The second part provides sample sentences and complete explanation of what each sentence means and how you can use them appropriately. The last part aims at the form of each sentence, so we'll be dealing with verb conjugations for each verb tense. Get ready. Here are also some tips for you to follow this video better. The first tip is take your time, pause the video if you need, go back and forth. The second tip is take notes. Make sure you have a piece of paper and a pen, so whenever it's necessary, you can take notes of what I'm saying and also some questions. Because in case you have any questions, you can send me an email. My email address will be on the screen at the last slide. So, I hope you have fun. Join me for the first lesson. The first slide is think about. Just like I told you, this first part, I want you to think about what you already know of the language. Think of a sentence where you can use this word. Just like I said, pause if you want, so then you can write down a sentence. The next one. If you finish taking your notes, take a look at the next slide. Here I have the same expressions that I provided on the slides before, from 1 to 8. And I have some simple sentences from A to H. Being A, I've been working at the same company, and H, I wake up early and go to work. Now, think of how you can match the numbers from 1 to 8 with the letters from A to H. What I mean is, what sentence goes better with every day? Also take notes. If you're ready, we can move on to the next slide. This slide gives you the answer key. So I have number 1, every day, matching better with letter H. I wake up early and go to work. Take your time to read every sentence and see if they make sense to you. Meaning and use. Just like I said, the second part of this video is going to help you to analyze each sentence. So let's take a look at the explanation. The first sentence, every day I wake up early and go to work, describes a routine or fact. So if you take a look at the timeline that is divided into past, present, and future, you will see that this action of waking up early and going to work is located in the present. But why is that a routine? Because you do it every day. Can other words also describe a routine? Yes, words such as sometimes, once a week, often, always. Those are all keywords that you can use with the simple present. The next sentence is present continuous. At the moment, I'm working part-time and studying a lot, which means that you are describing an action in progress now or momentary action. Let's look at the timeline, so then this makes more sense. Differently from the first sentence, where we were describing a routine, this sentence is also located in the present, but take a look at the difference. It's something continuous that doesn't stop. So at the moment, you're working part-time and you're studying a lot. This action is momentary, meaning that you're just doing at the moment. Maybe in a few weeks you're not doing that anymore. Next one is the simple past. Last week I was on vacation, so I went to the beach. This sentence describes a past ended action. Take a look, because this is something very important. When I say ended action, that means that I was on vacation and I went to the beach last week. This week I'm not there anymore. So if you take a look at the timeline, you see that the sentence is located in the past. It's also very important to notice that if I ask you the question, when, you can tell me that this happened last week. I know exactly when you did this action in the past. Now we have the next sentence, which is present perfect. I've already been to the States twice. Describes a past event without a specific time, a past experience. What I'm saying is that this means the past, just like the sentence that we analyzed before. Let's go back to it. Do you see that? It's also the past. So what's the difference between simple past and present perfect is that if I ask you the question, when this happened, you will tell me, I don't know. Of course, not being the speaker, but you can say that by looking at the sentence, I don't know when that happened, and it doesn't matter. Moving on to present perfect continuous, the sentence is, since 2005, I've been working at the same company. This sentence describes an action that started in the past and continues until the moment. Look at the timeline. Do you see that I have an action that started in the past and goes on and on and on and on and on until the present and might go on to the future? We don't know that. But the thing is that when did I start working at the company? In 2005. So that implies that I'm still working at the same company. I started an action and I'm still doing the same action. Future will. Someday I'll travel around the world. Describes a future idea. By looking at the timeline, you see that this action is in the future. Let's take a look at the next one so then we can compare it better. Future going to. Pretty soon I'm going to have vacation. I just have 2 more days of work. Describes a more possible future idea. So in the previous sentence, let's go back to it. I said that will describes a future idea and going to a more possible future idea. If you look at the timeline, this might be clear. If you look at the present, I have what says today. Then I have 2 more days of work. And then you have vacation. It sounds that it's much more possible for this activity to happen than the one before. Traveling around the world is just an idea that you have. This is the main difference between will and going to. But you'll find teachers or books that say that this is not the only difference, and it is true. We'll have a different class, another online video learning to show you that will is used in some other cases, but that's another lesson. Let's move on. The last sample is with future perfect. By 2020, I'll have finished my master's degree. This sentence describes a future idea that will be over when the time in the future arrives. Let's take a look at the timeline. So the action is located in the future because I'm talking about 2020. And the idea of finishing my master's degree is before 2020. So what I'm saying is that I'm making a plan that will be over before the time that I mentioned arrives. So before 2020, the action of finishing my master's degree will have happened already. Now that we've studied the meaning and the use, we can move on to the form, the last part of this video. Before we take a look at the forms on the sample sentences, I'd like to remind you of 2 different concepts for verbs: irregular verbs and regular verbs. In English, what you basically have is 3 different types of conjugations for the verbs. Conjugation number 1 is what we call base form. Number 2 is what we call simple past, and we'll be using the second conjugation for simple past only. And conjugation number 3, past participle. For irregular verbs, you might already know that each conjugation has a different way of presenting the verb. For regular verbs, the first conjugation is the present one, the second and the third will be the same. Let's take a look at the simple sentences so we know when to use each conjugation. For the simple present, you can see that the verb wake up and go follow conjugation number 1, so the base form if you prefer. But take a look at something that's very important. If I'm using the pronouns I, you, we, and they, I use the base form. But remember that for he, she, it, we add the s at the end of the verb. So wake up becomes wakes up, go becomes goes. I hope it's clear, so then we can move on to the next one. For the present continuous conjugation, what you need is the verb to be plus the verb in conjugation number 1 with ing. So you give the idea of continuation. What is going to change in this kind of tense is not the verb, but the verb to be. So for I, you have to properly conjugate with I am, you with they, with are, he, she, it, with is, and then the verb with ing. The next one, the simple past, you can use verb conjugation number 2. And I, you with they, he, she, it will have just the same. Just remember that in case you're using the past of verb to be, then you have different conjugations depending on the pronoun. So to remind you that I, he, she, it is was, you, we, they is were. But all the other ones will have the same. For example, it would be I, you, we, they went, he, she, it went. For present perfect conjugation, what you need to have is an auxiliary, have. Notice that have here is not the verb have. It's just an auxiliary, which means that it's going to represent you've chosen this verb tense. Plus verb conjugation 3, the past participle. In case you have I, you, we, they as the pronoun, you're going to use have plus the verb. My sample verb here is been, so have been. In case you use he, she, it, the auxiliary is not have, it's has. Then you use has been. For present perfect continuous, you will need the auxiliary have been. Every time I say auxiliary, that means that every sentence needs to have this auxiliary, so then your sentence is correct. And then after the auxiliary have been, you use verb in conjugation number 1 with ing. Take a look. I, you, we, they have been working. He, she, it has been working. If I use another verb, for example, let's say dancing. I, you, we, they have been dancing. He, she, it has been dancing. For the future will, what you need is auxiliary will plus verb in conjugation 1. I, you, we, they, he, she, it will travel. No difference on the pronoun. For future going to, you need verb to be plus auxiliary going to plus the verb in conjugation 1. Again, the only thing that is going to change is verb to be depending on the pronoun that you want to use. Take a look. For I have I'm going to have. For you, we, they are going to have. And for he, she, it is going to have. Last but not the least, by 2020, I'll have finished my master's degree. You need the auxiliary will have plus verb in conjugation number 3. And I, you, we, they, he, she, it will follow the same conjugation as being will have finished. Well, here's my email for any contacts that you need. In case you have any questions, please don't hesitate in sending me an email. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for staying with me, and I see you soon. Goodbye.